Down here, salt is a way of life.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling's salt, the floor is salt, the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt. And you breathe that in, and you can constantly taste the salt.
DC bans. I hate DC bans. I don't DC very often, but sometimes I don't want to go against an ebony hatchet huntress or be slugged by a ghost face all game. Some matches are just boring. I think there could be a better approach to players that DC in DBD than giving everyone who DCs a 5/15/30/60 minute ban. And knowing how toxic the fandom is, most of the comments will probably say something along the lines of "shut up furry, DC bans are fair and they stop little like you from rage quitting every match." I just wish there could be a better approach to players that DC. Like instead of one ban per DC, how about instead an hour-day ban to players that DC frequently in a certain span of time? If only the game developers were good at fixing problems in the game. Anyways, that was just my opinion.
When the ops opening statement is so damning to their cause that I do not even have to leave a reply. But I want to. LOL.
Or, alternately, you could stop complaining about being a sore loser, remove your head from your own ass and realize that sometimes we have to play matchups that we don't want. It gives you a chance to learn strats, counters and gives you more experience overall. If you can take the fact that you're getting a ban because you don't want to deal with certain killers, then that's your choice and you have to put up with the consequences. TL, Doctor, if you want to play the game and DC then deal with the punishment, simple.
Yeah, I agree with you, some matches are annoying and stupid. Why I forced to play a match with Mori, and I rehatches. 3 minutes max of game and I lose points, and rank, is stupid, no sense, is better to dodge Morris.
Shut up furry, DC bans are fair and they stop little s like you from rage quitting every match. That's about the long and short of it really. You typed up my response for me lol.
This game used to be a good party game like 13th was. The purpose of these games was to find a group of friends, play and run around from a serial killer. Then it just shifts more and more into a way where elitists have a big say in changes. The game runs awful and compared to my other games, it runs the least reliable. I'd say anything running UE is not a big time game IMO. Anyway, I'm withholding my dollars and refuse to buy any DLC, since if my game or connection crashes, I get penalized because someone gets bent out of shape and loses their mind over something so petty. Anyway, until community members respect one another's opinions, no more money to BHVR.
DC penalty? I don't understand how you can have a DC penalty in a game this broken. Between face camps, bugs, server issues and generally broken mechanics, it seems pretty unfair to the player. Obviously if you're playing DBD you're willing to deal with many of those issues. They are constant and will never be truly addressed. You'd think the devs would count themselves blessed that they somehow have a player base in a game that makes Fallout 76 look like a polished masterpiece. So why there would you then ban a player who from time to time gets fed up with the crap and decides to leave and wreck in hopes of getting a lobby that might hold together? Can you honestly blame someone? Getting hit through walls, pallet sect, or hit when the killer is a mile away and then suddenly appears over them? Or the other millions of BS scenarios? Sure, punish the DCs but only after you fix the bare basic mechanics of the game. Oh, and maybe hire some people who can help with online multiplayer. It's not supposed to work like this. If you don't believe me, check out a game called Halo Combat Evolved. They managed it. But of course that was like 20 years ago.
Sounds like DC punishment is working just fine when it filters out players like you.
DBD is not a competitive game and 90% player base are casuals. DC penalty, it's a shot in the knee. We will notice a huge player base drop soon or later.
Funny to see the fanboys buffet. Only an incel thinks like you, bro. But honestly, sync can also be a legit strategy. Someone's slugging for the 4K. You DC to give your teammate that hatch. Now you can't do fun things like that.
Not competitive at all, and yet you have people changing their graphics and altering sounds and options for the tiniest advantage. You have metas. You have tier lists. You have people sweating their sweet lil buns off. You have 4-man SWF death squads. And the game being is how there are two teams, killer and survivor, opposing each other, namely creating competition makes it competitive. Now again, there is a key difference between competitive and tournament play. We all remember the DBD tournament from 2017 LOL, but to say DBD is 100% casual is just outright wrong, to say the least. It's this mentality and lack of understanding of deeper parts that leads to stupid things like the emblem system. Good attempt but missed the mark.
Makes sense, you like it. You seem pretty dumb. Probably a killer main that plays like a dot. Those are the only people that would love this broken. Remove DC penalty. This is just the stupidest thing. If there's an option to report why apply this penalties. I got a 15 penalty cause my game crashed and before I had lost connection, which is not normal. Why can't we DC if we get camped, tunneled? If the match is not fun, it's not fair. Get penalty if we want, leave it. If the killer, survivors get points for DC, then penalties should be removed.
You already answered your own question for why the penalty exists.
No, I didn't. It's not fair. If we want, leave it, we leave. Theirs should not, because sometimes we lose connection and it's not the player fault. DC penalty is retarded. Whoever came up with this idea is retarded. In this game literally no one can prevent people from rage quitting. It's really pointless. I'd quite devs would implement something that creates even more toxicity. Instead of this, they should come up with an actual solution. Note, I literally do not DC.
I don't really like the DC penalty because it tends to linger for too long. I only have DC'd against matches that felt way too one-sided and curb stompish while solo K'ing. Now I just let myself die on the hook, because I don't feel like waiting 5 to 30 minutes just to play another match.
Yeah, the new penalty system is overly absurd. Which is why I stopped buying DLC and stuff in the store. Also why I went from 9 hours a day to 9 hours total played in the past 2 weeks. The game runs bad, has crashes, many people feel the game is flawless, and well, I just decided to only view forums seeing if there is an "I told you so" that pops up. More or less in a few hours I have queued for a match. The time it takes to find a match is astronomically worse. Yeah, those penalties sure fixed the game. Smirks.
All that being said, the DC penalty did not solve anything. People are stubborn. If you threaten them with a DC, their hatred for the game is gonna grow even stronger. So in the end of the day, the game did not provide a solution but just threatening players for something that is not their fault. I guarantee you most players, killer or survivor, they DC because of something stupid in the game, killer lags, bugged, another teammate that DCS, gen rushed, going against R1 players while you're just rank 10 to 15. As you can see, so many factors. I believe if those stupid things are fixed or happen less, people are not gonna DC, unless they lose connection.
You know you can't force PPL to play the game if they don't want to play it.
I still DC if I see the killer is tunneling.
I hate the DC penalty. I don't DC sure.
When I play Survivor it bothers me, because DC penalty didn't do it, only caused people to be more stubborn and DC regardless.